Hello! Today I'm looking at something exciting as per normal, although this has a bit of a long story behind it. It is this little Diatone Car thing, which also came with these goggles, although you can buy it without if you've got your own stuff. And it's a bit of a convoluted story because this should have come about a month and a half ago, and what happened is apparently the post office attempted to deliver it, didn't leave one of the cards behind, and I didn't know about it until it was too late. And then I checked the tracking number and it had literally been sent back to China the day before. But it's back, so we can check it out. This is a 1/76 scale radio control car, which also has an optional FPV camera. So we're talking about something like this big that you can obviously drive around your house. Not really suitable for outside, but I thought this would be a lot of fun. And if possible, I'd like to try and do something a little bit different with it. But let's go to close up, let's get these out of the box and see what's in there. Right, two boxes to open. Let's start with the actual car itself and see what we get. And some instructions. And then all this gubbins. So we've got a pretty regular looking car controller. So you've got the trigger, steering, that's normally like brake and reverse, so that looks okay. This just takes double A's by the looks of it. Then under here we've got the little car itself. This has obviously got the FPV camera on. Quite a big camera. It could have been smaller, but I guess, you know, these are built as cheap as possible. This is the regular canopy. I believe what happens is you just swap out the canopy, and presumably there's some connectors there that's going to be easy to swap out. You've got a little, presumably this is a charging lead. It's USB one side, JST the other, and what's this in here? A little keyring. So that's that bit. Really not much to it. It's like those bits plus that. And obviously we're going to read through these instructions to work out what happens. Put those aside for a sec, and let's just have a quick look what's in here, which I'm going to guess is pretty much the goggles and a USB cable for charging. These got a little bit dinged up in the post, so it doesn't want to come out very easily. God, those are stuck in pretty hard. Anyway, what we got in here? It's a user manual, and that's got stuck to itself. The goggles themselves, and what we got here? So it's looked like you got twin rubber ducks here. It looks like it's got some sort of diversity, I guess. We've got USB here, and we've got this USB lead, that's for charging. It says it's got a 1200 milliamp hour battery, and that is our field of view. Obviously these are not the highest spec goggles you're going to get. It's sort of cheap and cheerful. They've only got a resolution of 480 by 320, so not going to be the best, but it does mean you can go from nothing to like the whole setup, the car, the goggles, the controller and the lot. Anyway, I'm going to have a quick read through the manuals, charge this guy up and see how he works, so join me in a sec. Okay, I'm just sort of in my dining room kitchen because it's got this nice hardwood floor, which is really good for it. This guy is all charged up, and you've just got two buttons on it. You've got one under there which turns it on and off. You see if I turn it on it starts flashing. You've got another button here which you can change between one and the four channels. You can see how small this guy is. And then we've got this guy which I'll just turn it on, and it should connect to that, and you will see we've got full proportional control here. So we can do really quite delicate steering, and obviously we've got forward and backwards. Basically forward, and then that works as a brake, and then you have to press it again to go in reverse. It's got two modes. This is the fastest mode. This is called burst mode. You can tell that because that's flashing. If we go, and it's pretty quick for a little car, I have to say. But if we were to hold this down and turn it on, like that with the light on means it's in beginner mode, which is about 60% of the speed, which is still pretty quick. Now if you're going to drive it around like this sort of line of sight as you would, then what you'd probably want to do is probably put it in this mode. It kind of depends what you were doing really, if you were racing or whatever. So let's try FPVing this and see what happens. Okay, FPV time, and I'm sat in the lounge mostly because I can put the GoPro here and I can try out these things. This, I've tried it on before, and with all sort of box goggle type things, they're actually not bad in terms of what you can see inside there. I don't know how well that'll show up, but because it's an actual screen, it's all right. The problem with these is, it's not necessarily built for my shaped face. This is very small. I've got a quite sizable nose. That is pretty uncomfortable. So I'm also recording this here on my Fat Chunks, and you can see my DVR there, my power play. Yeah, but I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna basically go for a little drive over there into the conservatory maybe, and we'll see what happens. And I'm using the 60% rate. We'll see how that goes. I am actually, put that on the floor, going to try these guys out to see how bad it is. I've just recorded the whole thing, and it turned out I forgot to record on my power play. So let's do it again. These goggles actually look okay, but it's a pretty clear image. The fact it's only like 320. However, when I put them on, ow, it's like hitting the bridge of my nose here. And you've got to sort of have it there, else it's just up on your eyes, and that's very uncomfortable. But let's give it a try. We're using the 60% rate here. And yeah, it goes pretty good on the carpet, surprisingly. And it takes on these little, whoops, I say it takes on these little bumps okay. But one thing you've got to be careful of, because that FPV camera is kind of heavy, is if you go over a big bump, it can go over quite easily like that. Okay, we've righted it. Let's drive it a bit more. So the range of this thing is said to be around 50 meters, and I can't really test that because my house isn't that big. And I think it's fair to say that this is very much an indoors sort of thing, so it's pretty unlikely you'd want to take it outside because it just wouldn't hold up to conditions or the bumps. But if you've got a nice smooth surface like this is absolutely fantastic to drive on. You can really throw it about. But yeah, be careful of those bumps because they can take you out. Let's go over here. Carpet's a bit like being on a rally stage. It really does go around. This is my dog Roshi. She's not overly impressed, but she's not quite sure what it is. Yeah, she doesn't mind quads that much. She's quite used to them. But this car thing is a different matter. So let's get back in here, get back to myself. One good thing about driving this is because it's so small, you can just drive around the room of the house and you pretty much feel like, you know, you've gone off on a little interesting explore. Let me just swap over. These are, like I said, the actual picture in these is pretty good. You've got all sorts of like little controls in that. You've got little menus and stuff, but that is, if I had to wear it more than like 10 minutes, that would be really bad. So let me just pop this on and see the difference. Obviously this is fortunately still recording this time. And yeah, I mean you really do notice one hell of a difference in proper FPV goggles. I should say that I've got my custom diopters in here so I can see a lot clearer, but we do seem to have a better sort of dynamic range from the colour. It's just a little bit more colourful and seems to work just better basically. That said, it doesn't really like going straight into the light, I do notice. It gets a little bit dark around the edges I'm sort of seeing here, but it certainly works. I just imagine this would be great fun to have, especially if you've got a couple of you sort of devise your own little race course. You know, endless amounts of fun just playing. And this is 60% on the rates, so it could go faster, but I'm feeling that's pretty much what you want for FPVing around, especially if it's over the carpet and it's a little bit bumpy. But that's the basis of it. What I do like about it is that proper proportional steering. It's not just on or off, it's proper steering, which is nice. And you can be quite subtle on the speeds, although it's quite hard to show it. It's like slowly, faster. You hardly ever need the brakes because as soon as you stop, it just stops. But yeah, you can go backwards and that's cool. Earlier in the video I mentioned being able to swap the canopy and have a line of sight version. Obviously I'm wrong about that, but I didn't know until I actually took it apart and then found out that the FPV camera was soldered onto the circuit board. Obviously they do give this little white thing other canopy with it, but I think the idea of that is, you know, you can decorate it yourself and then you can fit the camera in and just be like that. So you can get two versions of it, and they say 60 minutes you can run for on the line of sight version and about 20 minutes on the FPV version. More like 10 to 15 depending how you drive it, but that's a fair old run time for this little car, and it doesn't take too long to charge back up. So the quick conclusion there is, yeah, I really like this. This is really easy to drive and fun. This is obviously very simple because it's just like a steering thing. It's a little top heavy with that camera. They could have gone a bit smaller, but the actual quality you get out of it is pretty good actually. The goggles, absolutely horrible. The pitch is actually very nice, but it's just the moulding to like a human adult face doesn't seem to be there. Now I imagine if you're a small child or you've got a tiny face and don't have a nose, then that's probably quite comfortable, but for everybody else in the world, yeah, don't get these. You can buy fairly cheap box type goggles. Just look for something that doesn't have a tiny thin slit and is just a bit bigger to mould your face, and you'll be golden. The similar thing to this one would be the Emax Interceptor, which came out a couple of years ago. I don't know if that's still available. Slightly bigger car, but same sort of concept. It's an FPV car, much more comfy goggles. But yeah, this is really good if you're in an enclosed space. Because it's so small, literally you can drive it around one room and you can set up your own race course and have a great deal of fun with it. And of course, if there's a couple of you and you've got a couple of these, then you've got proper FPV racing. You don't have to rely on the weather or anything. You can just be a little race course inside your house. That's why I like it. I did mention in the start of the video that I want to do something different with that, and I absolutely do. But I just want to do a quick review of this first because I've got a bit of a backlog. I was ill and then away, and then the weather wasn't good, and I've got some stuff to get through. But also this will take a while to figure out. I'll tell you what I want to do with it. About 9 years ago now, I wrote this very basic open source thing called NetFPV, where we basically drove FPV between myself and a friend in Italy just for fun, to see if we could do it using Skype as our video method. And I haven't touched that code since, and I thought this is ideal for setting up a little course and saying to my friends, hey, see if you can race around the course. That's what I'd like to do. Hopefully I'll come back and be doing that in a future video once I get some of my backlog sorted out. But that's it for now. Really like this, really good fun. Don't like these, get some different ones. This was kindly supplied though by Banggood, so thanks very much to them, and of course you'll find links down below to where you can check it out in more detail. Hope that review's been helpful, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.